Have you ever walked away from a conversation wishing you had said something differently? Maybe you replayed the words in your head, wondering why they didn't land the way you hoped. You notice how certain people can walk into a room, speak a few lines, and instantly earn respect, while you sometimes feel invisible. That contrast is the spark for this journey. Because the truth is this: communication isn't just about talking, it's about creating impact. And impact is not a gift, it's a skill. When we hear the phrase, speaking smart, we often imagine someone rattling off complicated words, throwing around jargon, or sounding like a professor. But genuine smart communication is the opposite. It's clarity without arrogance. It's presence without volume. It's intelligence expressed in a way that connects, not distances. Speaking smart isn't reserved for leaders on a stage or scholars in a lecture hall. It's for every single interaction. A job interview, a team meeting, a tough conversation with family, or even the way you introduce yourself to a stranger. Science backs this up. Researchers at Princeton University discovered that within seconds of hearing your voice, people form judgments about your intelligence, trustworthiness, and confidence. That means before your resume, before your achievements, before your actions, your voice has already spoken for you. In today's world of quick impressions and short attention spans, your voice truly becomes your signature. It's the first proof of who you are. But here's the reframe that changes everything. Speaking smart isn't about talent you were born with. It's not about perfect accents or a genius-level IQ. It's a learnable skill, just like writing, coding, or playing an instrument. That means if you feel nervous, stumble over words, or worry that you're not naturally eloquent, you're in the perfect place. Because none of those struggles disqualify you. In fact, they make you human. The path forward is simply about practice, structure, and intention. Think about the leaders who shaped history with words. Martin Luther King Jr., Malala Yousafzai, Steve Jobs, Barack Obama. Their strength wasn't in speaking loudly or using dazzling vocabulary. It was in speaking with purpose. They knew when to pause, how to tell stories, and how to let their conviction carry more weight than volume ever could. Their voices stood out because they communicated from a place of clarity and authenticity. Now imagine yourself walking into a room of strangers, colleagues, or potential opportunities. You haven't even shaken a hand yet. Within 30 seconds, how you sound sets the tone for how people perceive you. If your words are scattered and filled with filler sounds, people may tune out. But if your voice is clear, steady, and intentional, you build trust before you've even shared your full message. That's the hidden psychology of communication. It shapes identity faster than action itself. Let's make this practical. Two candidates walk into a job interview. Both have identical qualifications. One fidgets, speaks quickly, fills sentences with and like, and jumps from thought to thought. The other pauses, uses clear structure, answers with real examples, and leaves intentional silence instead of filler. Which one gets hired? The second, every time. Because clarity builds trust, and trust leads to decisions. That's why speaking smart matters more than ever. We live in a noisy world. Social media posts, short videos, notifications, all competing for attention. People scroll fast, judge quickly, and decide in seconds whether they'll listen to you or not. In this environment, the smart speaker stands out like a lighthouse, not because they shout above the noise, but because they cut through it with calm clarity. But here's the hopeful part. This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about unlocking your own voice, the one that's powerful, authentic, and impossible to ignore. You already have it. The only difference between where you are now and where you could be lies in awareness and practice. With each technique you learn, each conversation you reframe, you shift from being unheard to unforgettable. So, what will this journey give you? You'll learn to use your voice like an instrument, changing tone, rhythm, and pauses to create impact. You'll see how to choose words that connect instead of confuse. You'll discover how listening, not just speaking, makes you sound more intelligent. You'll learn how to remove weak language, how to stay calm under pressure, and how to persuade without manipulation. And most importantly, you'll discover how to bring all of this together so that communication becomes second nature, part of your identity. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if the way you speak could change the way your future unfolds? What if every conversation could build credibility instead of chipping away at it? What if your voice became the reason opportunities opened instead of closed? That's not a fantasy. It's what happens when you commit to learning the psychology of communication. This is where your story shifts. Speaking smart doesn't just change how others hear you, it changes how you hear yourself. The first time you deliver a message with clarity, the first time you notice someone leaning in instead of tuning out, you'll realize this is a superpower. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that builds bridges, resolves conflict, inspires teams, and deepens relationships. So as we begin this first stage, here's the truth worth remembering. Communication is not about impressing, it's about expressing. The smartest voice isn't the loudest, it's the clearest. And your clearest voice is already within you, waiting to be shaped, sharpened, and shared. Before we move forward, I want to invite you, the listener, to engage with this journey. Comment below where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know how far this voice is reaching across the world. And don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook Sanctuary and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a chapter of this journey toward speaking smarter. Now, let's continue into the deeper layers. How science explains the way our brains react to rhythm, tone, and pauses. Because if speaking smart starts with intention, it grows with understanding the very biology of sound and connection. Words are the building blocks of communication, but words alone aren't enough. A pile of bricks doesn't become a house until someone arranges them with a blueprint. The same applies to speech. If you want to sound intelligent, persuasive, and trustworthy, you need two things: the right words and the right structure to hold them together. Add confidence as the energy behind your delivery, and suddenly your message goes from ordinary to magnetic. Let's start with vocabulary. Many people believe that to sound smart, you need to use big words, complicated terms, technical jargon, and complex sentences. But the reality is the opposite. The smartest communicators are those who can explain complex ideas in the simplest language. Think about Albert Einstein's famous quote, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." That principle applies directly to speech. Clarity beats complexity every single time. Imagine you're listening to someone say, "The juxtaposition of divergent ideologies creates epistemological dissonance in the socio-political narrative." It might sound impressive at first, but most people tune out because they don't understand. Now hear this instead. When opposite beliefs collide, society gets confused about its story. Same meaning, far more impact. Because smart communication isn't about performing, it's about connecting. That doesn't mean you should avoid learning new words. A broad vocabulary is powerful, but only if you use it to create clarity, not confusion. Think of vocabulary like seasoning in food. A little spice enhances flavor, Too much ruins the dish. Smart communicators build a word bank of strong, clean, useful words like clarity, purpose, influence, authentic, impact. They use them naturally, not forcefully. They trim fat out of their sentences. Instead of saying, "He made the decision," they say, "He decided." Instead of "She gave help," they say, "She helped." Simple verbs create sharper sentences. The second key is structure. Words without structure are like a song without rhythm, scattered, forgettable, and often irritating. Structure creates flow. It's what makes your ideas easy to follow, impossible to misinterpret, and hard to forget. Every smart message has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Or in simple terms, setup, core idea, close. Picture being asked, "What's your opinion on leadership?" A rambling answer might wander for minutes without making a clear point. A smart answer follows structure, setup. Leadership isn't about titles, core idea. A real leader listens more, sets the tone with actions, and inspires through consistency. Close. So to me, leadership is about influence, not position. 3 short sentences, yet it sounds complete, confident, and polished. That's the power of structure. There are many forms of structure, but the most famous is the rule of 3. Our brains love trios. They're simple, satisfying, and memorable. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These 3s stick because they feel balanced. When you're making a point, break it into 3 reasons, 3 steps, or 3 examples. You'll sound more strategic, more thoughtful, and more convincing. Another underrated technique is signposting. Tiny verbal roadmaps you give your listener. Phrases like, "Let me explain. Here's why that matters." There are 2 things to remember. Act like guideposts. They make the audience feel safe because they know where you're going. Without signposting, listeners can feel lost even if your message is strong. With it, you instantly sound more organized and professional. But perhaps the most human structure is storytelling. Our brains are wired for stories. If you want people to remember a lesson, wrap it inside a short narrative. Not a long, rambling tale. Just a quick setup, a challenge, a resolution, and a message. For example, when I was 17, I froze during a speech and forgot every word. That embarrassment taught me the power of preparation. Now, I always plan before I speak. In 3 lines, you gave emotion, context, and insight. That's structure in its most natural form. Now let's tie in confidence, the force that powers your vocabulary and structure. You can have the best words and cleanest outline, but if you deliver them with hesitation, the impact collapses. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not about showing off or speaking the loudest. It's about grounding yourself in your message and expressing it as if it matters. Because it does. Think about posture. Before you speak a single word, your body has already spoken. Slouching, fidgeting, or avoiding eye contact undercuts your authority, no matter how brilliant your message. Standing tall, shoulders back, steady eye contact. All of these prime your voice to carry strength. Your body is the stage for your voice. Build presence physically, and your words gain weight. Tone is equally important. Confident speakers don't rush or shrink their voices. They avoid turning sentences into questions unless they're actually asking. They use downward inflection, ending firmly instead of trailing off. This doesn't mean sounding robotic. It means sounding certain, steady, and intentional. And here's the key about filler words. Like, you know. These are confidence killers. They sneak in when your brain is catching up with your mouth. Instead of filling space with noise, replace fillers with silence. A pause is smarter than a filler because it signals thoughtfulness, not panic. Imagine these two lines. I think we should maybe try a new strategy because it could kinda help. I believe a new strategy will help us reach more people. Here's why. Same idea, different delivery. The confident one wins every time. But what if you don't feel confident? Here's the truth. You don't need to feel confident to speak confidently. Confidence is a muscle you train through practice, feedback, and repetition. Start small. Record your voice notes. Practice in front of a mirror. Say your message 10 different ways until it feels natural in your mouth. Stack tiny wins. Ask one smart question in a meeting. Share one opinion in a group. Raise your voice in one conversation. Each moment builds the muscle. Visualization is another powerful tool. Before an important conversation, close your eyes and imagine yourself speaking with calm, clear authority. Picture the words landing, the audience nodding, the room quieting. This mental rehearsal rewires your brain for performance under pressure. Athletes do it before games. You can do it before conversations. Confidence also grows when you own your story. Your voice matters not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. The cracks, the pauses, even the nerves, they're part of your humanity. And humanity is magnetic. People connect to honesty more than perfection. So when you combine smart vocabulary, structured delivery, and authentic confidence, you create a powerful trifecta. Each part supports the other. Vocabulary ensures clarity. Structure ensures flow. Confidence ensures impact. Together, they transform ordinary words into messages that people trust, remember, and act upon. That's the essence of speaking smart. It's not about tricks or performance. It's about aligning words, structure, and energy so your message resonates. As we close this section, let's return to a simple truth. The smartest speaker isn't the one who uses the fanciest words, but the one who makes the message land with clarity and conviction. When your words are precise, your structure clear, and your delivery confident, you don't just sound smart, you sound unshakable. And this naturally leads us into the next stage of our journey, learning why listening, silence, and authenticity are the real secret weapons of powerful communication. Because speaking smart isn't just about what comes out of your mouth, it's about how deeply you understand, connect, and reflect before you even say a word. The smartest communicators know something most people overlook. Speaking is only half of communication. The other half, often more powerful, is listening. In fact, the best speakers are not the ones who dominate the conversation, but the ones who create space, absorb meaning, and respond with depth. Listening is the secret ingredient that makes your words carry more weight when you finally speak. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you. Not just nodded politely, not just waited for their turn, but really listened. They looked you in the eye, reflected your words back, and made you feel understood. Chances are, you walked away feeling respected, valued, and connected. Now flip the perspective. When you give that kind of attention to someone else, you don't just build rapport, you elevate your credibility. People trust those who listen. Listening also prevents one of the most common traps of poor communication: responding to what you think someone said instead of what they actually meant. By listening fully, you give yourself the raw material to craft precise, relevant, and intelligent responses. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is fast, shallow, and often defensive. Responding is thoughtful, clear, and persuasive, but listening isn't passive. It's not just silence. Smart listening is active. It's showing with your body language that you're engaged. Steady eye contact, nods, slight leaning in. It's paraphrasing. So what I hear you saying is, it's asking follow-up questions that prove you've absorbed more than just the surface words. What was the toughest part for you? Or can you tell me more about that? These techniques transform you from a talker into a connector. And here's the paradox. When you listen more, your fewer words carry more authority. Why? Because you're tailoring your response to what matters most to the other person. You're not throwing out generic points. You're sculpting your words to fit the moment. That customization makes you sound sharper, wiser, and more persuasive. Now let's talk about silence. Silence, when used with intention, is one of the most powerful tools in communication. Most people fear it, rushing to fill every pause with filler words. Like, you know. But a pause isn't empty. A pause is presence. It signals control, reflection, and confidence. It allows your message to land with more force. Think of silence as punctuation. It's what gives your words rhythm and weight. Take this line. I believe in you. Pause. Even when you don't. That pause transforms the sentence from ordinary encouragement into something profound. It gives the listener time to feel the message instead of just hearing it. Smart speakers respect silence the way musicians respect rests in music. The spaces between notes create the melody. The spaces between words create the impact. Now, silence also works in conflict. Imagine someone confronts you with hostility. The untrained impulse is to fire back immediately. But the smart communicator listens first, pauses, and then responds slowly and firmly. For example, instead of snapping back with, "That's ridiculous," you might say, "I understand that's how you see it. Let me share my perspective." No shouting, no escalation, just calm strength. That shift disarms tension and repositions you as the voice of reason. Authenticity is the third pillar of this section, and it ties everything together. You can have perfect vocabulary, flawless structure, and even sharp confidence. But if your words don't feel like you, people will sense the performance and disengage. Authentic communication is about alignment. Your words, your tone, your body, and your values all pointing in the same direction. Consider two leaders talking about failure. One says, "Failure is unacceptable. We must push harder." The other says, "I failed many times, but each failure taught me lessons success never could. That's why I don't fear failure. I grow from it." Which one do you trust more? The authentic one, because they share humanity, not perfection. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or turning every speech into a confession. It means speaking from experience, owning your imperfections, and letting genuine emotion color your words. It means dropping the unnecessary mask. Smart communication isn't about sounding polished at all costs. It's about sounding real. And here's the twist. When you stop trying to sound smart, you actually start sounding smarter. Why? Because realness is clarity. Think of authenticity as the soul of communication. Without it, even the most carefully chosen words feel hollow. With it, even simple words carry immense power. A crack in your voice when you talk about something you care about doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you. A pause to collect yourself doesn't show uncertainty. It shows humanity. Practical steps? Start by speaking from experience. When you share what you've lived, people feel it. Say, "Here's what I learned," instead of hiding behind theories. Second, own your imperfections. Don't undercut yourself with phrases like, "This might sound stupid, but..." Instead, state your view directly. Here's an idea worth considering. Third, let emotion breathe through your delivery. If you care, show it. Don't bury passion under a blanket of professionalism. Real emotion is intelligence at work. It shows you're engaged, not detached. When you weave listening, silence, and authenticity together, your communication shifts. You stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. And connection is what lasts. People may forget the details of what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel, heard, respected, and inspired. So as we close this section, here's the essence. The smartest communication doesn't come from filling space with endless words. It comes from listening deeply, pausing intentionally, and speaking with truth. When you do that, your words gain gravity. They don't just pass through ears, they settle into hearts. And that sets the stage for our next step, learning how to hold your ground when the pressure rises. Because it's one thing to speak smart in calm waters, but the real test comes in high-stakes moments. Interviews, presentations, conflicts, where nerves and emotions run high. That's where persuasion and storytelling become your greatest allies. High-stakes moments are where all the theory of communication gets tested. It's one thing to speak clearly in a relaxed setting, but it's another when the stakes are high. When the job interview could change your future, when the presentation could decide your promotion, or when the difficult conversation could redefine a relationship. In those moments, your ability to stay centered, persuasive, and human is what separates the ordinary communicator from the truly powerful one. Here's the first truth. Under pressure, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your preparation. That means you cannot simply wing it when the stakes are high. Smart speakers rehearse, not in a robotic, memorized way, but in a way that builds clarity and calm. They ask themselves 3 grounding questions before stepping into the room. What is the single outcome I want? What is the one core message I must deliver? How do I want the other person to feel when I'm done? These 3 questions act like anchors. When nerves rise and distractions swirl, they pull you back to clarity. Instead of drowning in overthinking, you ride the current of intention. Think about interviews. Many people prepare by memorizing perfect answers. The problem is that nerves scramble memorization. Smart candidates instead prepare stories. They pick 3 to 5 key experiences from their past, moments that show strengths, struggles, and lessons, and they practice telling them using the situation-action-result format. For example, in my last role, our team was behind schedule. I redesigned the workflow and we delivered 2 weeks early. That moment taught me the power of collaboration. That story is real, clear, and persuasive. Now shift to presentations. Public speaking is one of the most common fears in the world, but the fear doesn't come from the act of speaking. It comes from uncertainty. What if I forget my words? What if they judge me? The smart way to handle this is not to obsess about yourself, but to focus on service. Nervousness is self-centered energy. How do I look? How do I sound? But communication at its core is service. How can I help them? How can I move them? That shift dissolves fear. When your focus is on giving, you stop worrying about being judged. In conflict situations, the stakes feel even higher because emotions are involved. Most people react with either fight or flight, attacking back or shutting down. The smart communicator does neither. They listen first, pause, Then respond slowly, clearly, and firmly. Imagine someone throws an unfair comment in a meeting. A reactive response might be, "That's ridiculous, you don't know what you're talking about." A smart response, "I hear that's your perspective. Let me share a different one." Calm doesn't mean weak. Calm is strength under control, and it disarms escalation faster than volume ever could. This is where persuasion enters the stage. Speaking smart isn't just about sounding impressive. It's about guiding others toward insight and action without force. Aristotle gave us the 3 timeless pillars of persuasion: logos, logic; pathos, emotion; and ethos, credibility. Smart communicators weave all 3. Logos, present facts, structure, and evidence. People respect ideas that make sense. Pathos, engage emotion. People act when they feel. A story about a child asking why trees are gone hits harder than data about deforestation. Ethos, build credibility. Show consistency, honesty, and humility. People follow those they trust. Persuasion works best when these 3 pillars stand together. Facts without emotion feel cold. Emotion without credibility feels manipulative. Credibility without structure feels vague. Balance them, and you move people authentically. Storytelling is persuasion's most powerful engine. Numbers may inform, but stories transform. Neuroscience shows that when we hear a story, our brain doesn't just process words, it lights up as if we're living the experience. That's why stories stick long after bullet points fade. Think of Steve Jobs. He never launched a product with pure specs. He told a story. He made you feel why the product mattered. That's why people didn't just buy devices. They bought into a vision. You don't need to be Steve Jobs, but you can learn the same principle. Wrap your message in narrative. The formula is simple: setup, conflict, resolution, message. For example, when our team faced burnout halfway through the project, I remembered one late night when a small breakthrough gave us hope. 2 weeks later, we succeeded. That taught me this: when things feel hardest, you're closer to victory than you think. That story doesn't just tell, it moves. It transforms the listener's perspective. In high-stakes persuasion, timing matters as much as content. Sometimes silence persuades more than pressure. Sometimes waiting until the listener is ready works better than pushing when they resist. Smart communicators understand the rhythm of influence. They don't hammer. They guide. Here are 5 practical strategies for high-pressure speaking. Breathe before speaking. 1 deep breath resets nerves and slows your pace. Use structure under stress. Default to a simple frame. Issue, proposal, reason. It saves you from rambling. Speak slower, not faster. Fast speech signals panic. Slow speech signals control. Focus on tone, not just words. You can say "I disagree" in a way that feels respectful or hostile. Tone makes the difference. Visualize the win. See yourself succeeding before you open your mouth. Your brain rehearses success like it rehearses fear. The combination of calm presence, persuasive balance, and storytelling power is what allows you to shine when the stakes are highest. And here's the big takeaway. People may not remember every detail of what you said in those crucial moments, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Did you make them feel heard, respected, inspired? Or did you leave them feeling bulldozed or ignored? That emotional imprint is your true legacy. So, as we close this section, recognize this. The real test of speaking smart isn't in the easy conversations. It's in the moments of pressure, persuasion, and narrative. If you can stay calm, guide with clarity, and weave stories that resonate, you don't just survive those moments, you thrive in them. And that brings us to the final layer of this journey: charisma, influence, and the daily habits that make powerful communication not just a skill, but a lifestyle. Because the point isn't to speak smart once, it's to live as a smart communicator every day. Charisma, influence, habits. These three elements are the glue that binds together everything we've explored so far. You can learn vocabulary, structure, confidence, listening, authenticity, and storytelling. But the real transformation comes when these skills stop being techniques you use and start becoming part of who you are. That's the promise of this final stage: to show you how charisma and influence can be built, and how daily habits can make smart communication your second nature. Let's begin with charisma. People often think charisma is something you're either born with or not. But charisma isn't about looks, extroversion, or charm. It's about presence, warmth, and power. Presence means giving your full attention to the moment. When a charismatic speaker talks, you feel like you're the only person in the room. They're not distracted, scanning for reactions, or rehearsing their next line. They're with you, fully. Warmth is the emotional connection. It's the smile, the empathy, the way their words make you feel valued. Power is conviction without aggression. The ability to speak with certainty, groundedness, and belief. Charisma isn't magic, it's practice. You cultivate presence by listening deeply before speaking. You build warmth by asking questions and genuinely appreciating people's input. You project power by standing behind your words, speaking steadily, and owning your message. These are choices, not accidents. And when you combine them, you create magnetism. Now, influence. Influence isn't about manipulation or domination. It's about guiding outcomes with respect. Smart communicators understand 5 timeless principles that make influence ethical and effective: reciprocity, consistency, social proof, liking, and scarcity. Reciprocity. Give value before asking for anything. Share insight, offer help, or provide support. People are wired to return the favor. Consistency. Align your message with what the listener already values. If they've said honesty matters, show how your idea reflects honesty. Social proof. Highlight how others have succeeded with the same approach. We trust what others trust. Liking. Build rapport by showing respect, finding common ground, and making people feel seen. We follow people we like. Scarcity. Show the cost of inaction. Without pressure, simply highlight opportunities that may not last forever. When used together, these principles create influence that feels collaborative, not coercive. The listener feels guided, not pushed. They walk away not just agreeing with you, but believing they chose it themselves. That's sustainable influence. Now, the most important part: daily habits. Because no matter how many skills you learn, they fade without practice. Speaking smart must become a lifestyle. Here are the habits that make it stick. Think before you speak. A short pause to clarify your intention transforms your message. Ask, what's the point? Who's the listener? What do they need? Speak less, say more. Don't fill space with clutter. Trust silence. Make every word serve the message. Use your voice like an instrument. Vary your tone. Slow down at key points. Emphasize the words that matter, and allow pauses to breathe. Read and listen daily. Great speakers are great learners. Expose yourself to books, podcasts, and voices that challenge you. Curiosity fuels expression. Ask more questions than you answer. The most respected voice in the room is often the one that makes others think. Reflect after conversations. Instead of moving on, ask, did I say what I meant? How did they receive it? What could I improve? This isn't criticism, it's growth. Speak from your values. Align your words with your principles. People may disagree with your ideas, but they'll respect your integrity. Practice in small moments. Don't wait for the stage. Practice in daily chats, feedback sessions, introductions. Every conversation is training. Notice something here. None of these habits require genius. None demand perfection. They require awareness, intention, and repetition. Over time, they stop feeling like practices and start feeling like identity. You don't try to speak smart. You simply live it. And here's the bigger picture. Communication is not just about success in careers, interviews, or presentations. It's about how you show up in life. Smart communication builds stronger relationships, resolves conflicts with grace, inspires teams, and creates trust wherever you go. It's a service to others, not just a skill for yourself. So as we bring this journey to a close, let's summarize. Speaking smart is not about impressing, it's about expressing. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. It's not about volume, it's about clarity. You've learned how words, structure, confidence, listening, authenticity, persuasion, storytelling, and charisma all intertwine. And now you've seen how daily habits can anchor these into your life permanently. The call to action is simple but profound. Start small. Practice daily. One conversation, one pause, one smart sentence at a time. Don't chase perfection, chase progress. Each time you choose clarity over clutter, presence over panic, authenticity over performance, you grow. Over months and years, those choices build a voice that not only communicates, but transforms. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs voices that lead with clarity, calm, confidence, and service. And your voice can be that voice. So let this be your mantra as you step away from these words. Clarity, calm, confidence, service. With these, your communication won't just sound smart. It will change lives, starting with your own. We've reached the end of this journey. But in truth, the end is just the beginning. The techniques and ideas you've absorbed are not meant to sit on a shelf. They're meant to be lived. Every conversation you enter from this day forward is an opportunity to practice and grow. Think about your daily life. A quick chat with a colleague, a call with family, a question asked in a meeting. These are not small moments. They are the training ground. Each one is a chance to think before you speak, to choose clarity, to listen fully, to pause instead of filling space. Communication is not an occasional performance. It's the constant thread that weaves your relationships, your career, and your influence. The habits we reviewed are deceptively simple. Pause and breathe. Trim filler words. Align words with values. Ask more than you answer. Yet within these small practices lies the power to reshape how the world sees you. People will begin to trust your words more, not because you shout louder, but because you speak with steady clarity. They will feel safe around you, not because you have all the answers, but because you truly listen. They will remember you, not because you tried to impress, but because you were authentic. And here's the real shift. When you adopt these practices consistently, communication stops being a tool you pick up. It becomes part of who you are. You become someone whose voice carries weight, someone whose presence calms storms, someone whose words move people toward action, hope, and connection. Don't expect perfection. Expect growth. There will be times you stumble, use filler words, lose structure, or feel nerves. That's not failure. It's training. Each slip is feedback. Each attempt is a step. Over time, the rough edges smooth out, and what remains is a voice that feels natural, trustworthy, and powerful. So here is your final charge. Start today. Choose one habit to practice in your very next conversation. Maybe it's pausing instead of saying Maybe it's asking a thoughtful question. Maybe it's ending your point with certainty instead of trailing off. One habit at a time. You build momentum. Remember, your voice is not just sound. It's your signature in the world. And when you use it with clarity, calm, confidence, and service, it becomes a tool not just for success, but for transformation. This is the lifestyle of a smart speaker, and it's available to you now. Start small, practice daily. Speak smart, because your words have the power to lead, connect, and transform. Not someday, but today.